Hey, what's up guys? Thanks for stopping by the channel. So for this video, we're going to be checking out the latest iteration of the Tudor Pelagos, which is personally my favorite diver in their catalog. And on the wrist, we are wearing not only a Pelagos FXD, but this is also a chronograph that's in collaboration with the Alinghi Red Bull Yacht Racing team. Now personally, I don't watch yacht racing at all, so this collaboration really doesn't do too much for me, other than have a really cool color scheme that matches the Red Bull branding. There's also a bit of an X factor with this watch as well, because it has a carbon composite case, but also retains traces of titanium to tie it into the Pelagos lineup. And the pricing for this watch is just over 6,500 Canadian dollars, which is actually right around the same price as you can purchase the Tudor Black Bay chronograph on a fabric strap. So you actually have a couple of cool chronograph diver options from Tudor that I think work really well in their lineup. Now, I think this is a watch that no one really saw coming, but personally I'm very happy that they continue to build upon the Pelagos family of watches. So why don't we flip perspectives now, and you guys can actually take a close-up look at this Tudor Pelagos FXD chronograph in the studio. So now that we're in the studio, we can take a closer look at this Tudor FXD chronograph with the Red Bull collaboration. And what I'd like to do is just quickly go over the basic specs for the watch and then tell you the things that I really enjoy about this timepiece, also some cons, and then do a quick wrap up. So right off the bat, I will say that this FXD is slightly larger than other FXDs in their catalog. Between my fingers, I measure a case diameter of 43.4 millimeters. Looking at the side profile, lug-to-lug distance between my thumbs is 51 millimeters. And then in terms of case height, that's just from the case back here to the top of a flat sapphire crystal, is 13.8 millimeters, which isn't bad considering that this is, again, a diver's chronograph. It's like a millimeter thinner than the Black Bay chronograph or other dive chronographs from other brands like Omega and Breitling. And then the other dimension I'll mention is that this fixed lug opening is an even 22 millimeters, so you do get this nice Velcro strap supplied. It does have some nice red contrast stitch at the end of a strap here, just to keep in line with the Red Bull collaboration colors that are here. And it's a fairly robust strap. I do wish they gave you a second rubber strap like you would get on a standard FXD. But I'll also mention that this watch is fairly lightweight due to the carbon composite case. It only weighs in at 92 grams. So in terms of the wearing experience and comfort level for this watch, it's surprisingly good, even though you're dealing with some slightly larger dimensions. So here's a quick in-studio wrist shot just to show you how well this watch would wear on a 7.5-inch wrist. That's 19 centimeters in circumference if you use the metric system. And even looking down the barrel, you can see the watch stays very planted. And I do think one of the pros for this watch is the long-term wear and comfort, because it's not super heavy like a lot of other stainless steel divers chronographs, but you still get enough wrist presence and heft here to make it not feel like a toy or like a bioceramic swatch collaboration. Alright, so getting into some of the features of this particular FXD, similar to other models, it's a 200-meter water-resistant dive watch. Similar to the Black Bay chronograph, it runs a similar movement with the Tudor caliber MT5813. This is a kinesi-based movement that gives you 70 hours of power reserve, ticks away at a modern 4 Hertz. You get the added date complication that replaces a 6 o'clock index. And it's also a column wheel chronograph with a vertical clutch. And what I really like about this particular model that you're actually not going to have on the Black Bay chronograph is that the pushers aren't screwed down at all. So Actually pushing and engaging the chronograph is snappy, but you don't have to unscrew the pushers to get purchase on this actual complication. So I really enjoy that over the Black Bay chronograph from Tudor. And another distinction that this watch has over the Black Bay chronograph is the use of the squared applied indexes as opposed to the circular markers on the Black Bay. And for me, in this layout, I actually prefer the Pelagos style of hour markers. That's just a personal preference. But of course, you got the traditional Tudor snowflake hour hand, a broadsword style minute hand, and then a very nice red accented seconds hand that matches the red text that says Pelagos above the 6 o'clock date cutout that's there. And I also like the use of the red surrounds for the actual bi-compact subdials on this watch. So you will note that at the 9 o'clock position is your constant seconds, and at the 3 o'clock position is your minute totalizer up to 45 minutes. So another thing I really like about this watch is the materials used. If you take a look at the carbon composite case, it's nice because it resists like fingerprints and scratching fairly well in my experience, but then it doesn't feel so cheap or like a lot like plastic, and you're still getting some elements of titanium. So note the use of a titanium screw down crown with the Tudor Shield logo. The pushers themselves are also titanium, as is the bezel itself, but the insert is a similar carbon composite material as the rest of the case. Now the bezel itself is bi-directional, and it has retrograde minutes on it, so up to 60 minutes. And you can see that each minute is actually marked with small graduations, and then you do have for every 10 minutes the actual Arabic font that's there. This is nice, and it's also a good way to keep track of the running chronograph seconds hand if you're anywhere in between the first or last 10 seconds, because if you see the rehot for the dial, they replaced the last and first 10 seconds with the Alinghi Red Bull Racing font. Now that's very divisive, and I think a lot of people don't like it. Personally, I'm actually not a fan of it either, but if you look at this watch head on, you really don't notice it that much, and I can still tell you exactly what time it is if I was to stop the chronograph second here. It's right above the 2-minute bezel index that's there, so again, still fairly functional for a chronograph, although my personal preference would be to actually move any type of collaboration branding onto the case back, or I think it would actually look really good branded on the strap if you had like a Red Bull symbol or Alinghi Racing or something like that branded on the strap. That would actually be pretty cool. So in terms of pros, I do think like with a total package, it's an interesting colorway. The dial is like a matte deep blue, almost purple color, but then you have the red accents, and then you also have a black carbon bezel insert. And the bezel insert, as well as the hands and the applied hour markers, are very well loomed, like pretty much any Pelagos line there is. You're getting X1 grade Swiss Superluminova, and I'll show you guys a loom shot now. Definitely not going to have any problems reading this in low light or zero lighting conditions. So in terms of potential negatives, I've already alluded to the fact that I'm not a huge fan of the Alinghi Red Bull Racing text that's replacing the minute graduations on the rehot here. I think it'd be more functional if you just had actual minute markers. And the other text that's printed above the date aperture is a little bit small for my eyes, and they probably could have removed some line of text just to make it a cleaner aesthetic overall. But that's a fairly minor nitpick in my opinion. Another con I want to share is that the manual winding and time setting for the movement in this watch, for whatever reason, there's a lot of resistance and kind of a gritty feel to it that's there that you wouldn't see on the Black Bay chronograph or other models in the FXD lineup. It still works and keeps excellent time as a certified chronometer, but just trying to wind it up and set it, it's a bit more rough than I'm used to, and I'm not sure why that is. It might just be my example. Overall, I do think that this is an excellent watch for the money. You're getting a lot of complications packed into this watch in terms of having a chronograph with some different materials. You also get the date complication, very nice lume on the dial, and the proportions and wearing experience for this particular watch being made of this material is actually very, very comfortable. And even with a sub 7-inch wrist, I think you can wear this watch with security, comfort, and confidence. But as always, guys, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section of this video. What do you think of this FXD chronograph from Tudor? Would you consider picking one up? And if you do enjoy this content, please do consider subscribing to the channel. It helps me out a lot. And as always, I can't wait to catch you guys in the next video.